Let me tell you something, your emotions are the invisible force that shapes every thought, every action, and every result in your life. If you let anger, fear, or frustration control you, then you're not in charge, your emotions are. And if you're not in charge, you're living life as a passenger, not as the driver. Today, we're gonna flip that. Today, you take back control. Let me ask you a question. What really determines the quality of your life? Think about that for a moment. Most people will say money. Some will say success. Others might say relationships, career, health, or freedom. And all of those things matter. But here's the truth. None of them actually determines the quality of your life. What really determines it is one thing, your emotions. Because let's be real, you can have all the money in the world, but if you're angry, frustrated, anxious, or depressed every single day, are you living a great life? Of course not. You're suffering. On the other hand, you can have very little, you can face real challenges, but if you live in a state of gratitude, joy, love, determination, and confidence, your life feels incredible. That's because the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. Most people never stop to think about this. They chase after success, they chase after recognition, they chase after material things, believing that once they achieve them, they'll finally feel good. But here's the problem. How many times have you gotten what you wanted and then still felt empty inside? How many times have you achieved a goal, celebrated for a few days, and then gone right back to stress or frustration? That's because the external world can never give you permanent fulfillment. It's what you feel on the inside that creates your life experience. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people with the same exact situation. They both wake up to rain outside. The first person looks at the rain and says, "What a miserable day. This is gonna ruin everything. I hate this weather." Their emotion and frustration, negativity, misery. The second person wakes up, sees the same rain, and says, "Wow, what a beautiful day. The air feels fresh, the plants are alive. This is nature's gift." Their emotion, gratitude, peace, joy, same situation, completely different life experience. What's the difference? Emotion. And here's what you need to understand. Emotions are a decision, not a condition. People think emotions just happen to them like they're victims of feelings. I'm angry because he did this. I'm sad because she said that. I'm stressed because life is hard. But the truth is, your emotions are not controlled by other people or by circumstances. They're controlled by you. You decide what to focus on. You decide what something means. And you decide the state you live in. If you don't take control of your emotions, they will control you. And when emotions control you, they dictate your choices. And when your choices are driven by fear, anger, or doubt, they lead to results that reinforce the very emotions you're trying to escape. It becomes a cycle. Think about it. How many relationships are destroyed not by lack of love, but by uncontrolled emotions like jealousy, insecurity, or resentment? How many careers are sabotaged not by lack of intelligence, but by emotions like fear of failure or fear of rejection? How many dreams are abandoned not because they were impossible, but because someone let frustration, impatience, or self-doubt dictate their actions? That's why I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, stop focusing only on the outside world and start mastering your inner world. Master your emotions, because everything else, your career, your relationships, your health, flows from the emotions you live in every single day. Let me ask you another question. What are the emotions you experience most often? Be honest with yourself. Do you live more often in stress, anxiety, worry, or frustration? Or do you live in gratitude, joy, excitement, determination, and love? Whatever emotions dominate your life will shape the story of your life. Now, here's the powerful part. You are not your emotions. You experience them, but they are not you. You can feel anger without becoming an angry person. You can feel sadness without becoming a sad person. The problem is most people identify with their emotions. They say things like, "I am angry, I am depressed, I am broken." No, you are not those emotions. You are much more than that. Emotions are patterns. They are signals. They're telling you to pay attention, to shift, to grow. But they are not your identity. Think about this. When you were a child, you probably got upset over things that today make you laugh. Maybe your toy broke and you thought your world was ending. Maybe your best friend didn't sit next to you and it felt like betrayal. But now, as an adult, those things don't matter. Why? Because you've grown. You've given new meaning to those experiences. That shows you the truth. Emotions can be shaped, they can be changed, and you are in control of that process. Now, most people live life reacting instead of creating. They wake up and immediately check their phone. They see bad news, they see someone's highlight reel on social media, and instantly they start comparing, they start worrying, they start feeling like they're behind. Within minutes of waking up, they've already given away control of their emotions to the outside world. But successful people Fulfilled people, leaders, they do the opposite. They decide every single morning what emotions they're going to live in. They prime themselves, they train their body, then their mind and their heart to live in states of gratitude, determination, passion, and love, because they know if they control their emotions, they control their life. Let me tell you something powerful. You can condition emotions the same way you condition your body. If you work out every day, your muscles grow stronger. If you feed your body junk, your energy weakens. The same is true for emotions. If every day you practice gratitude, if every day you find joy in small things, if every day you stand tall and breathe deeply, you're conditioning your nervous system to feel strong emotions. But if every day you focus on what's wrong, if every day you dwell on fear or frustration, you're conditioning yourself to feel weak. And you know what happens? Whatever emotions you practice become your default. That's why some people are always angry. They've practiced anger. That's why some people are always stressed. They've practiced stress. And that's why some people are always confident. They've practiced confidence. Your emotions are like muscles and the ones you use most often are the ones that dominate your life. So I want you to think right now, which emotional muscles are you exercising every single day? Are you exercising the muscles of fear, worry, doubt, and frustration? Or are you exercising the muscles of joy, passion, determination, and love? Because whichever you practice, that will become your life. And here's the most exciting part. Change can happen in an instant. You don't need years of therapy to feel different. You don't need decades to condition yourself. You can shift your emotions right now in this moment by deciding to take control of your focus, your body, and the meaning you give to life. And when you do, you'll realize that you don't have to wait for life to get better before you feel better. You don't have to wait for the perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect opportunity. You can feel joy, gratitude, and passion right now because emotions are not something you wait for. They're something you create. That's the secret. The secret to life is mastering your emotions. Not letting the outside world dictate how you feel. Not letting circumstances or people decide the state you live in. But choosing every single day to be the master of your inner world. Because when you control your emotions, you control the way you experience everything else. Have you ever noticed how the worst decisions in life almost always come from the wrong state of mind? Think about it. When you were stressed out, when you were overwhelmed, when you were angry, did you make the best decision of your life in that moment? No, you probably said something you regretted. You probably acted in a way that didn't serve you. You probably made a choice that actually created more problems. That's because your state always comes before your strategy. People love to talk about strategy. They say, Tony, what's the right strategy for success? What's the right strategy for wealth? What's the right strategy for relationships? And strategy matters, don't get me wrong. But here's the truth, if you're in the wrong state, even the best strategy won't work. And if you're in the right state, you can make almost any strategy work. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people start the exact same business. They both have the same strategy, the same resources, the same opportunity. The first person is in a state of fear and doubt. They keep thinking, what if I fail? What if this doesn't work? What if people reject me? Their state paralyzes them. They hesitate, they second guess themselves, they play small. The second person is in a state of certainty, determination, and hunger. They think, I'm gonna find a way. No matter what, I'll make this work. Their state drives them to act boldly, to take risks, to connect with people, and to adapt when challenges come up. Same strategy, same opportunity, completely different results. Why? Because their state shaped the way they use the strategy. That's why I say you don't need a new strategy first. You need a new state. If you're in the wrong state, you'll sabotage yourself. You'll find problems with every solution. You'll hesitate when you should act. You'll quit when you should push through. But when you're in the right state, when you're charged up with energy, with clarity, with confidence, you'll find solutions even when it looks impossible. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a state where everything just flowed? Maybe it was at work, maybe in sports, maybe in a conversation. You felt unstoppable. You didn't have to think, you just acted. You weren't worried about what could go wrong. You were focused on what you wanted to create. That's the power of the state. In that state, you don't need to have all the answers because your creativity, your energy, your intuition, they come alive. But most people don't realize this. Most people try to figure out a strategy while they're in a lousy state. They sit there stressed out and anxious, doubting themselves, and then they say, okay, let me figure out how to change my life. You can't. You can't find a breakthrough from a broken state. You have to change your state first. You have to move from fear to courage, from doubt to certainty, from frustration to determination. Only then will your mind and body unlock the creativity to find the right strategy. This is why so many people get stuck. They think they need more information, more books, more courses, more strategies, but the truth is they don't need another strategy. They need to master their state, because knowledge without the right state is useless. But energy, passion, and certainty in the right state can turn even limited knowledge into massive results. Think about the greatest athletes in the world. Do you think they win because they always have the best strategy? No. At that level, everybody knows strategy. Everybody knows the plays, the techniques, the drills. What separates the winners from the losers is the state. One athlete walks into the arena filled with doubt, overthinking every move. Another walks in with absolute certainty, full of energy, focused, determined. Same strategy, different state. And that difference is everything. The same is true in business. The same is true in relationships. Have you ever tried to solve a relationship problem when you were angry? What happened? Did the conversation get better? Or did it explode into something worse? That's because you were trying to fix a problem while in a disempowering state. But when you approach that same conversation from a place of love, from a place of patience, from a place of curiosity, suddenly everything shifts. The problem might not even be a problem anymore because your state changed the meaning of the situation. So let me be direct with you. If you're not getting the results you want in life, stop obsessing over strategy for a moment and check your state. Ask yourself, what state am I living in right now? Because your state is the filter through which you see the world. If you're in a negative state, even good opportunities will look like problems. If you're in a powerful state, even problems will look like opportunities. Now here's the thing, you don't have to wait for your state to change by accident. You can change it on demand. You can shift your state instantly. It doesn't take years. It doesn't take hours. It takes a decision and a shift in focus and energy. If you want to feel confident, don't wait for the perfect circumstances. Stand up tall, breathe deeply, move with power. Focus on what you want instead of what you fear. Within minutes, your state changes. And when your state changes, your entire experience changes. I'll tell you something I've seen again and again at my events. People come in weighed down by stress, worry, and fear. They're hunched over, they're quiet, their energy is low. Within an hour, after changing their physiology, after changing their focus, they're jumping up and down, they're screaming with certainty, they're alive. And in that state, they suddenly see possibilities that were invisible before. Did their circumstances change in that hour? No. Their state changed, and that changed everything. So I want you to remember the strategy matters, but the state is the master. The greatest strategy in the world will fail if you're in a lousy state. And even an average strategy can succeed if you're in a peak state. That's why your number one job every single day is to put yourself in the right state. Because when you're in the right state, you're unstoppable, you're resourceful, you're creative, you're resilient, you see opportunities, you take action, you follow through. But when you're in the wrong state, even the simplest tasks feel overwhelming. You procrastinate, you doubt, you hesitate, you shrink. It's not the strategy that failed, it's the state you were in when you tried to use it. So here's what I want you to think about. How often do you allow yourself to make decisions in a negative state? How often do you let fear, doubt, or stress dictate your choices? Because those choices are shaping your destiny. Every time you decide in the wrong state, you're building a future you don't want. But every time you decide in a powerful state, you're creating momentum toward the life you do want. And that's why I say state before strategy. Always, you want to change your life. Don't just look for a new plan. Don't just look for a new system. Get into a powerful state first, and from that state, create the plan. From that state, execute the system. From that state, make the decision. Because when you do, your actions will be fueled by certainty, clarity, and confidence, and those emotions will drive you further than any strategy ever could. Here's a truth that most people overlook: your body is the fastest way to change your emotions. Right now, in this very moment, the way you're sitting, the way you're breathing, the way you're holding yourself is shaping how you feel. Most people think emotions come from the mind first, but that's only half the picture. Emotions live in the body. If you change your physiology, you change your emotions instantly. Think about it. How does a depressed person move? Shoulders slouched, breathing shallow, head down, voice soft, body heavy. If you were to act that way for just 2 minutes, you'd start to feel down. Why? Because motion creates emotion. The body tells the brain how to feel. On the other hand, how does a confident person stand? Chest up, shoulders back, eyes forward, breathing deep, moving with energy. If you adopt that physiology, within moments you feel different, stronger, bolder, more alive. I want you to really get this, because most people live disconnected from their bodies. They let stress, tension, and poor habits lock them into disempowering states. They sit all day hunched over a screen, barely breathing, barely moving, and then they wonder why they feel anxious, why they feel drained, why they feel unmotivated. It's not because life is broken, it's because their physiology is broken. If you want to take control of your emotions, you must take control of your body. And this doesn't take years, this doesn't take hours, it takes moments. If you've ever gone for a run when you felt stressed, you know exactly what I mean. 10 minutes into moving your body, suddenly you feel lighter, clearer, more energized. Nothing about your external world changed. You didn't solve all your problems in those 10 minutes, but your physiology changed. And because your physiology changed, your emotions shifted. The same is true for power, for confidence, for joy. You can trigger those emotions by triggering the body patterns connected to them. That's why athletes pump themselves up before stepping into the arena. That's why performers jump, stretch, and move before walking on stage. They're not waiting for emotions to magically appear. They're using their body to create the emotions they need to perform at their peak. I'll give you a personal story. There are days, like anyone else, when I wake up and I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel powerful. I don't feel passionate. I don't feel inspired. If I listened to that emotion, my day would collapse. But instead, I change my physiology. I blast some music, I move my body, I do breathing exercises, I get into motion. And within minutes, my state transforms. Suddenly, I feel unstoppable, and from that place, I can serve, I can create, I can lead. That's the power you have every single day, but most people never use it. They sit around waiting for motivation. They sit around waiting to feel like it. But motivation doesn't just show up. Motivation is created by motion. When you change your body, your brain follows. You don't need to wait for confidence. You can breathe and move like a confident person in, and your brain will catch up. You don't need to wait for joy. You can smile, laugh, move with energy, and joy will come alive in your nervous system. This is why exercise, posture, breath, and movement aren't just about health. They're about mastery of emotion. You can learn to interrupt any negative state with a shift in physiology. Angry? Change your breathing, go for a run, shake it out. Anxious, stand tall, slow your breath, expand your chest, walk with certainty. Sad? Move your body, open your shoulders, and lift your eyes. It may sound simple, but it works because your nervous system is hardwired to associate certain body patterns with certain emotions. Let me prove it to you right now. Imagine the most powerful, confident version of yourself. See how that version of you would stand. See how that version of you would breathe. See how that version of you would move. And now, for a moment, actually do it. Stand the way you would stand if you were unstoppable. Breathe the way you would breathe if you owned the room. Move the way you would move if you knew you could not fail. Notice how quickly your feelings shift. That's the science of physiology in action. Every great breakthrough in human performance is connected to this principle. Soldiers are trained to control their bodies under pressure because their physiology shapes their courage. Speakers are trained to project energy through their bodies because it influences not just the audience, but their own state. Even in ancient traditions, yoga, martial arts, meditation, the body is used as the gateway to shift emotions and consciousness. It's timeless wisdom. If you want to change the way you feel, change the way you move. But here's the problem. Too many people are conditioned into patterns of weak physiology. They practice being tired by slouching. They practice being anxious by breathing shallow. They practice being small by looking down. And over time, that physiology becomes their identity. But the beautiful thing is, identity is just repeated emotion. And repeated emotion is just repeated physiology. That means if you change the pattern, you change the identity. So I want you to think right now, how are you using your body every day? Are you standing tall, breathing deep, moving with energy? Or are you collapsing your shoulders, shutting down your chest, breathing shallow? Because that simple choice determines the emotions you experience most often. And those emotions are shaping your destiny. This is why at my events I push people to move, to dance, to shout, to breathe, to celebrate. It's not random hype, it's science. It's rewiring the nervous system, because if I can get you to experience gratitude, joy, confidence, and power in your body again and again, eventually that becomes your default. Your body remembers. Your nervous system locks it in. And suddenly, you don't have to try to feel strong. You just are. That's the gift of mastering physiology. It gives you access to emotions that most people think they have to wait for. You don't wait for happiness, you create it. You don't wait for courage, you embody it. You don't wait for peace, you breathe it into existence. You are not at the mercy of your emotions because your body is the switch that can turn any emotion on or off. So the next time you feel stuck, the next time you feel small, the next time you feel trapped in fear or doubt, don't overthink it. Don't try to solve it in your head. Stand up, move your body, breathe with power, change your physiology, and you'll discover that the emotion you thought was impossible to escape dissolves in seconds because your body is the gateway, your physiology is the master key. And when you use it, you realize that the emotions that once controlled you are nothing more than patterns waiting to be rewritten. Where focus goes, energy flows. You've heard me say it before, but I want you to really feel what that means. At any moment of your life, thousands of things are happening all around you. Your brain is processing more information than you can imagine, but your mind can only focus on a few things at a time, and whatever you choose to focus on will determine what you feel. Focus equals feeling. Think about this. If you focus on everything that's missing in your life, what are you going to feel? Frustration, stress, scarcity. But if you focus on what you already have, on what you're grateful for, you'll feel joy, peace, and abundance. The same life, the same circumstances, but a different focus leads to a completely different emotional experience. Focus is like a magnifying glass. Whatever you direct it toward expands in your mind. If you constantly focus on problems, the problems grow bigger. If you constantly focus on possibilities, the possibilities expand. And here's the truth most people don't realize: it's not the events of your life that shape you, it's the meaning you attach to those events. Meaning equals emotion. Let me give you an example. Two people lost their jobs on the exact same day. The first person says, "This is the end. I'm a failure. I'll never recover." They focus on the loss, and the meaning they give it is that their life is over. Their emotion, hopelessness. The second person says, "This is my chance. This is life pushing me to grow, to find something better, to step into the next level of who I am." They focus on the opportunity, and the meaning they give it is that this is a new beginning. Their emotion, determination, excitement, freedom. Same event, different focus, different meaning, different life. This is the power you have every day. You don't control what happens to you, but you do control what you focus on and what meaning you give to it. That decision shapes your emotions, and your emotions shape your actions, and your actions shape your destiny. Now, most people live on autopilot. They let their focus drift to whatever is loudest, whatever is most urgent, whatever is most negative. They turn on the news, and what do they see? Fear, anger, problems. They scroll through social media, and what do they see? Comparison, criticism, judgment, and then they wonder why they feel anxious, stressed, and unfulfilled. It's not because life is terrible, it's because their focus is being hijacked. If you want to take back your life, you must take back your focus. You must decide consciously, what am I going to give my attention to? Because your focus is like your steering wheel. Wherever it goes, your life follows. If you're always focusing on the past, you'll live in regret. If you're always focusing on what you can't control, you'll live in anxiety. But if you focus on the present, if you focus on solutions, if you focus on what you can create, you'll live in power. Let me ask you something right now. What do you focus on more often, what you have or what you're missing? What can you control or what's out of your control, the past or the future? Because whatever you focus on consistently will shape the emotional home you live in. And most people don't even realize they've built an emotional home out of frustration, out of fear, out of stress, because that's where their focus goes every day. But you can build a new home. You can build a home of gratitude, of confidence, of passion, of joy. And the way you build it is by choosing a new focus and a new meaning every day. And you ask yourself, what's good in my life right now? What can I be grateful for? What's the opportunity here? What's a meaning that empowers me instead of destroying me? Those questions change your focus, and your focus changes your emotions. I remember working with people who had been through unimaginable pain, loss, tragedy, heartbreak, and I saw two completely different responses. Some people focused on what they lost, and they gave it the meaning that their life was over. They lived in despair. Others focused on what they could learn, on how they could grow, and on how they could use their pain to help others. They gave it the meaning that life was testing them, shaping them, forging them into something greater. And they lived in strength. Same pain, different focus, different meaning, different destiny. This is not about ignoring reality. This is about shaping reality. Because reality is what you focus on, and reality is the meaning you give it. If you change your focus, you literally change the way your nervous system experiences life. And when you change the meaning, and you change the story you tell yourself about who you are and what's possible, here's the key. Nothing in life has any meaning except the meaning you give it. If you decide that failure means you're worthless, you'll live in shame. If you decide that failure means you're learning, you'll live in growth. If you decide that failure means you're one step closer to success, you'll live in determination. The failure itself is neutral. The meaning you attach to it creates the emotion, and emotions are powerful. Emotions drive everything. They drive your behavior, your relationships, your career, your health, your decisions. If you don't take control of your focus and meaning, your emotions will be shaped by randomness, by other people, by the environment. But if you take control, you become the author of your life. So let's make this practical. Imagine right now you face a challenge, something tough. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's personal, maybe it's emotional. Where's your focus? Are you focusing on what you can't control, on what's wrong, on how hard it is? Or are you focusing on what you can do, on what's possible, on the strength inside you? Now ask yourself, what meaning are you giving this? Is it the end, or is it the beginning of something new? Is it punishment, or is it preparation? Is it here to break you, or is it here to build you? The moment you shift your focus, the moment you change the meaning, everything changes. Suddenly, the same challenge that looked unbearable becomes the fuel for your greatest growth. The same setback that looked like failure becomes the setup for your comeback. And that shift doesn't take years, it takes seconds. It's a choice. It's the choice to master your focus and to give empowering meaning to every experience you face. I'll tell you, the happiest and most successful people are not the ones with perfect lives. They're the ones who have mastered this art. They've trained themselves to focus on what empowers them, and they've trained themselves to give empowering meanings to everything life throws their way. When something goes wrong, they say, "This is happening for me, not to me." That simple shift changes everything. Because when life is happening for you, even the pain has a purpose, even the struggle has a gift, even the obstacle has an opportunity. And the beautiful thing is, this is a skill. You can train it. You can practice it every day. You can catch yourself when your focus drifts to what's wrong, and you can redirect it to what's right. You can catch yourself when you give a disempowering meaning, and you can replace it with an empowering one. And the more you practice, the stronger you become. Because at the end of the day, the secret to emotional power is simple. Focus and meaning. Focus on what empowers you. Give it a meaning that strengthens you, and your emotions will follow. Focus on what weakens you. Give it a meaning that destroys you, and your emotions will follow too. You have the power to choose, and that choice, moment by moment, day by day, is what will shape the emotional home you live in, the story you tell yourself, and ultimately, the life you create. So here's what it all comes down to, though. The greatest gift you can give yourself is emotional mastery. Because the quality of your life will never be determined by conditions. It will always be determined by the emotions you live in every single day. If you don't control your emotions, they will control you. And when your emotions control you, they'll control your choices, your relationships, your career, and your destiny. But the moment you decide that you are the master of your emotions, everything changes. You've learned that your emotions shape your life. You've learned that you can't solve problems or build a future from a broken state. You must master your state before you focus on strategy. You've learned that motion creates emotion, that your body is the gateway to instantly shifting how you feel. And you've learned that focus and meaning are the ultimate filters of your reality. Where your focus goes, energy flows, and then the meaning you give to any experience is what determines whether it empowers you or destroys you. This is your power, this is your responsibility, and this is your freedom. So the question you must ask yourself every single day is simple: who is in charge here? Is it the fear, the doubt, the frustration, the anger, or is it you? Because when it's you, when you decide to live in gratitude, in courage, in determination, in love, your life becomes extraordinary. Not someday, not when conditions change, but right now. Remember this truth: your destiny is not written by your circumstances. Your destiny is written by the emotions you choose, the state you create, and the meaning you give to life. Control your emotions and you will control your future.